Standard Bank has an Africa-wide business and is 20% held by China's ICBC.
It has a market cap of 237 billion rand, a PE less than FirstRand, it's 10.3, and a dividend yield of 4.84%.
Ben Kruger and Sim Shabalala at the helm with that dual CEO role. Your thoughts on Standard Bank? Do you own it?
I do own it. It really is a solid bellwether of the South African financial services sector. Very well established, well run bank. I think that big change in their strategy to go from an emerging market bank to an Africa bank has really helped a lot. Their timing seems prescient with getting out of the UK, selling they still have a stake in that with ICBC, which is their 20% anchor shareholder from China, massive financial institution from China, lending a lot of credibility. But that exiting the UK was really well timed, and some of the other businesses. Argentina, they did a very similar thing with ICBC, where they own a minority stake and sold their majority stake to their parent company, ICBC. So that shareholding structure.
Do you see anything happening with the ICBC stake? Either an increase or perhaps even a reduction of that 20%? Or do you think that is now a permanent structure within the Standard Bank shareholding?
In the short and medium term, I see it as a relatively stable, permanent structure. I don't see any reason for change. I think the Chinese are very cautious and they will go slowly. That stuff around the periphery has happened. And now it's up to the two parties, Standard Bank and ICBC on the one hand, to make it happen. And I think they're really going to try work that. It's been quite slow. Commodities has been a bit of a story, and as the banks have been maybe a little bit exposed to the South African rand and the fortunes there, a little bit to the commodity cycle, especially these banks which have quite a lot of Africa exposure.
Byron, have we been tempted at any stage within the Vestact fold, I know not the hot stocks portfolio, to actually take a stake in Standard Bank?
It's always been one of our favoured banks, but then I guess FirstRand with their innovation sort of took over. 3-4 years ago, the Africa story was exciting everyone. That was the next growth frontier. And, as Lance mentioned, we saw commodities pull back. A lot of the countries that they operate in have pulled back along with that. And, the story's not really intact. Having said that...
Share price graph while you say what you're going to say.
Having said that, I still think there's a lot of potential in a lot of the regions that they operate in. Their investment bank has been doing pretty well. Yeah. I think on the retail side, there's still a little bit of a dinosaur, a lot of legacy technologies there that they've struggled to get rid of. And I don't know, I guess when I speak to people around, they moan a lot more about their bank if they're with Standard Bank than with some of the others.
Is that a fair criticism, Lance? It sounds a little anecdotal to me, I must say.
I don't think so. I think they've really invested a lot, and their apps are pretty good on the smartphones and also the internet. So they really have put a lot of effort into that. Very strong businesses in South Africa. Africa is a big opportunity for them, and maybe the Trump presidency and hopefully an uptake in commodity prices because of their big infrastructure spend plan for the US actually is a benefit to these banks if you follow the chain through. And so I see less political risk for these banks. I see maybe commodity prices picking up a little bit, push to Africa, and I quite like the story here.
I would tend to agree that the Africa opportunity is not behind us, and I'd like to remind you that South Africa is growing at, on the bright side, 0.4, 0.5%, whereas the other territories in Africa, there are many countries out there that are growing above 5%. Yeah. Nigeria and South Africa are the big drags on that overall Africa story. I'm an Afro-optimist.
I agree with you 100%. I'm also optimistic. Maybe not necessarily on relying on a commodity upsurge, but more on a supply service type growth in the economy. Like I'm saying in South Africa, a big growth in middle class. So I think the banks that are consumer facing and bringing on retail banking in these regions are going to be the ones that benefit the most.
Hot or not?
Hot on this one as well.
Hot or not, Byron?
I'm tempted to go hot because I think the valuations still look fairly positive. Not my
but you can't quite bring yourself to do it.
No, I'm going to go hot. I'll go hot.
Yeah.